And welcome to ToutSuite Social Club, brought to you by 55 Degrees Wine Storage up in St. Helena. We are here tonight with Minor Family Wines. We've got the whole Minor team tonight. I love this. Got Dave Minor right here. We've got James, the in-house sommelier. And then on camera, we have Dr. Gary B., the director of winemaking. And then we've got also some visitors, Matt, who's coming through live with us as well. We're going to have a here. We've got some great wines, some Chardonnay, some Pinot Noir, and Oracle Red Blend. So happy to have you here, Dave.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So what do we need to know? Before we get started on these wines, what do I need to know? What do we need to talk to you guys about? Because we're going to have some fun.
Well, we make wine.
Really?
For a living, yes.
Is that you're in Napa Valley?
Yes.
You grow grapes?
Yes.
And you turn them into wine?
We do.
That is such a great
I know,
concept.
It's astounding.
I love it.
It's
Can I do it?
It's magical, even.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Gandalf on your team?
Yes.
Can we get Gary B to grow a beard and we'll have him as Gandalf next year?
Normally he has a beard, actually. And Matt Siegel, who's unbelievably handsome, our director of security, also has a nice beard.
I like this. He already gave up the harvest beard. I can see that. All right, very cool.
But yes, we're in Oakville. Just up the road a ways.
Right there on the Silverado Trail.
Silverado Trail, right off the just north of the Oakville Crossroad. So we're open every day to the public, and we produce quite a few different wines, very small production, and a wide variety of different grapes, because we're a little bit crazy.
Really?
And we're
just a little
mildly ADD. So. Who's making noise?
Who's making noise? We've got noise coming through. Say hi, Gary, just so we can check your sound.
Hi there.
Jody?
Jody?
Hi, Jody.
Hi, guys. How are you?
It is Jody.
Hi.
We've also got Jody with us.
Am I the noisy one?
You're the noisy one, but it's okay. We're happy to have you. Welcome.
How do I shut my audio off? I didn't to drop in and listen.
We want you to take part in this. Do you have any quick questions while we've already got you upline?
Well, I'm just out shopping, so I'm on my phone. I was just gonna drop in.
You're amazingly clear for being on your phone, because my phone doesn't sound like that when it's on my ear.
Seriously, I can't make a phone call and sound as good as you do right now.
Oh, you guys, you're too sweet. So, are you like? What
Too
happened?
Sweet. Oh, I see.
I've
Nice
never been on the suite
there.
before. Oh dear. Well, I'm going to try and shut my audio off. Can I do that?
Yeah, we can do that. But did you have a quick question while you're on?
Oops,
Oh, too late. Sorry. Oh, she's back. Okay. Quick question. What do you got? Let us go.
No, I really didn't have a question. I'm just anxious for you guys to come down to the Shark Tank sometime.
Oh, yes, please.
The Shark Tank?
This is JoJo.
This is JoJo. Okay. So there's going to be a story here, and I want to hear this. All right.
JoJo's famous. She's one of our favorite people around the winery. Her husband is I don't know if I can say this, but he's the coach of the Sharks, our assistant coach, and one of our biggest fans and one of our favorite people to talk to and always take care of. So.
And we love the Sharks.
Yeah.
We're fanatical Shark fans.
Really?
Yes.
And did you grow up playing hockey?
I grew up playing hockey. I grew up in Chicago, so.
Oh, okay.
I had to give it up when I moved to California because there was no ice where I lived. So, but I still like to skate and fart around, and we've got a lot of friends who are in the hockey kind of business and game, and coaches and trainers and players and retired people. So,
what position did you play?
I was forward, left wing.
Left wing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We spend a lot of our times kind of contributing to NHL charities, and a big sponsorship for us is the Winter Classic each year.
Nice.
So the game outside, and Dave is generous enough to contribute a number of wines, but also big bottles all signed and all going to auction as well.
Very cool. Where is the Winter Classic this year, by the way?
This year it's in Detroit at the big house at the University of Michigan.
Oh boy, are you going to go?
No, I'm not going this year.
Oh man.
But it's Detroit and Toronto.
Oh boy.
And then this year they're doing all kinds of outdoor games, so it's like expanding. So go Flyers, man!
Go Flyers! Oh boy! Hey, Gary B has his shark.
Gary's got his shark.
I like that. I got to be careful. I grew up on Long Island playing hockey, so I was a staunch Islanders fan growing up.
There you
and,
go. Pat LaFontaine.
There you go.
Good friend of mine. He just got a job. He's president of the Buffalo Sabres now.
Is he really?
So I sent him a big box of Pinot to congratulate him, and he said, the way I got the job was I took a bottle of minor Pinot down to the owner's house in Florida and plied him with wine, and he goes, I got the job. So he gave me a credit for an assist.
I like that.
It was beautiful.
Hey, Wayne Gretzky made his career on assists, so.
There you go.
Well, and he scored a few goals too, but.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Man, that's fantastic. I was actually in New York, sadly enough, though, when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. So I was the one getting heckled by all my friends, even though I was running around yelling 1940 as a kid. But hey.
It's a dangerous place to wear an Islanders jersey, yeah.
It kind of was. Well, we've got to actually talk a little bit about the wines today.
Yes,
but we're going to
please.
use these wines to try and springboard into more about Minor and more about you guys, and just generally have a great time.
Yes.
But we have some Chardonnay here. So what do I need to know about this Chardonnay?
So this is one of several Chardonnays that we produce. This is called the Wild Yeast Chardonnay.
Wild Yeast.
This is a blend of about 5 different vineyards, actually. A couple down here in Carneros, Hudson Vineyard, Hyde Vineyard, a vineyard called Jenny's Vineyard, and then a vineyard up in Oakville, and then Stagecoach Vineyard as well.
Oh, wow.
So
you're really running the gamut with this.
Yeah, with Chardonnay, I think, one of the things we like to do is, number one, keep some freshness and some acidity in the wine, and number two, give it some complexity. So you get some tropical fruit from the Carneros vineyards, and you get more citrusy sort of notes and more minerality from the hillside vineyards up valley, and give it some complexity and keep it kind of bright and interesting, even though this wine goes through full ML. It goes into maybe 50% new oak, and it's in oak about 16 months.
Oh, what?
So
that's a Chardonnay that's in oak almost as long as some red wines.
yes.
I
So
like
in
it.
fact, it's in as long as our Pinot or as long as our Syrah.
Wow. This is no little Chardonnay.
No,
right now.
it's a big Chardonnay. We like to think of it as a red wine lover Chardonnay. But,
I like it. I like red wine.
But
so
it's
I guess I
not
like
just
this one.
butter and oak and all that. It's got some acidity. It's got minerality. It's got a lot of complexity, and the natural yeast gives it more complexity, I think, and also helps integrate the wood and all the components very well.
No, it's got a lot of layers to it, and you can see all the things that you're talking about. You have great oak complexity there, but it's not the first thing you taste. You've got great acidity, lots of tropical fruit notes. This is a tropical fruit bomb for Chardonnay, which I'm really enjoying right now.
Yeah.
And then the full ML is just this really nice mouth-filling creaminess rather than just
Cloying
or anything like that. It's wonderful.
And the finish is so long, and it kind of keeps changing on your palate. That's the thing that I love about it, is it just constantly talks to you, which for me is, what's interesting about wine. It just keeps talking to you and saying different things, and, you keep dipping back into the glass.
So I'm going to go home tonight, and while I'm asleep, this Chardonnay is actually going to be like whispering in my ear.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
I think we have Matt.
Oh, we have Matt. We have more. What do you got, Matt?
You have a question?
You have a question? We have an idea? You have a thought? Do we have audio on Matt?
No audio. Matt? The Flyers suck, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's because he's a Flyers fan that he's not able to talk to us. Gary B., while we've got you here, what can you tell us as director of winemaking about this Chardonnay?
I think Dave covered at least the flavor component very well. I would also add that it's got a real spicy character, that comes from the weight, but not the wild yeast adds a real layering and spicy nutmeg. It's almost very tropical, but not necessarily fruit, but tropical spice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It is definitely a fun wine to make. Takes a lot of patience because people get all excited or they get impatient with the fact that the wine doesn't ferment for quite a few days because the wild yeast have to grow. So while they're growing, nothing happens, and then you think, gee, nothing's going to happen here. I've spent a lot of money on barrels, a lot of money on grapes, and then one day you come in and all the little fermentation locks are bubbling away, and voila, 5 days, 2 weeks later, there's wine. It's kind of a fun process.
But then you've got another 16 months after those 2 weeks to then kind of hold on to it a little bit more and keep going from there?
And once a month we stir them. We get like a bent golf putter and stick it in the barrel and whisk it around, and then do that once a month for about the first 6 or 7 months, and then from then on they just rest and age for another year.
Whew, that's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's, a lot of winemakers look at white varietals as something that they have a little bit of a turnaround on. You can bring the fruit in, get the fermentation through, and then, in some cases, it's within 4 months, you can get it into the bottle and get it on the market. And maybe in some other cases, it's the following year before harvest. But you guys really put a lot of time and effort into crafting the Chardonnay.
Well, we have, like I said, we make a lot of different wines. So we kind of have a full range of options for people. So we make Sauvignon Blanc. We make quite a bit of Viognier as well, which is all stainless steel fermented. And, so those wines are relatively quicker turnaround wines. So we have some wines that we can do that, with as well that are, less expensive, less labor intensive, but also great expressions of the varietal, fresh, lively, wonderful wines at a reasonable price. A wine like this, is a little more expensive wine because it takes more labor, it takes more time, it takes more effort.
We have Matt.
Oh, we have Matt.
Matt, you're on, buddy.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Really
good.
Thanks.
Now he can talk all the smack about the Flyers. Uh-oh.
Yeah, you better be careful, buddy. Gary's looking pretty good, though.
Yeah?
You too, handsome.
Thanks, buddy.
And then we've also got John and Stacy in here as well. Are you guys on?
Hey, guys. Yeah, can you hear us?
Very cool. Man, you got a whole crowd. I like
Good
this.
evening.
Good
I even
evening.
have the miner shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
That shirt looks really good on you.
Thank you.
So we're all representing Minor right now. This is good fun. So, I got Didier coming at me. We got more questions.
That's right.
Let's do this.
We have Brian Royce, and he's wondering about the story behind the minor label, and is anything to do with sport or life?
Sport or life?
Yes, anything to do with that. And then we have David Mason that just made a little comment saying that Viognier rocks. But
David Mason's a very handsome man, very intelligent as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about this label a little
Brian
bit.
Royce is a good old guy from Minnesota. He's an old Minnetonka guy in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah,
so
awesome.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah, but let's talk about this label a little bit. Tell me about it.
So,
what is this winged creature that's flying off into the distance?
The label is the ancient Assyrian winged sun god. So obviously the Assyrians were some of the very first winemakers. They sort of discovered fermentation, the Assyrians, Mesopotamians, which is why they name a lot of the large format bottles Nebuchadnezzar, Salmanazar, Baltazar, funny names like that.
You know how to remember those names, right?
Biblical names. And my dad's family is Assyrian. So my grandfather made wine, in Iran is where they came from. And, when the Assyrians and the Armenians started getting, their butts whipped by a lot of people there, they moved to the States.
Oh, okay.
So he moved to Chicago.
That's a long gap in time for them to walk, I guess, from one section all the way to the United States.
It's a long walk to Chicago. Actually, my grandmother and my two uncles walked from northwestern Iran to Baghdad.
Did they really?
With everything they owned in a cart and some ox. And, basically got attacked by different people on the way and finally made it to Baghdad. And then the English, it was like 1916, 1917.
Wow.
So the English had some camps there and they got them out of the country and they all came to Chicago.
Holy jeez. 1916, 1917.
Yeah.
That's when Gary B graduated from college, I think. Right, Gary B?
Yeah.
Humboldt.
Yeah, he's just smiling.
You're muted again.
He's muted. Oh,
As
boy.
you should be.
But and it's crazy to think. I mean, I just saw an article the other day that they've actually uncovered cellars that old.
Yeah.
Thousands of years. They think about, we have record of winemaking taking place long ago, but they've never really seen any evidence of it. And all of a sudden they are doing digging in different areas and they've unearthed these old cellars, and it's pretty fantastic that wine has been around for that long.
I know, and it was probably an accident the way they discovered it. So, it's a lot of people like to make wine into this big, sort of secretive, crazy thing, but it was an accident that people sort of discovered and then tasted, and it made them feel good, and they went, "This is good."
Well, was your discovery of wine and your starting of Minor Wines an accident?
It kind of was an accident, actually. I mean, my uncle bought a vineyard in the 80s up in Oakville.
Okay.
Because my grandfather, his dad, made wine in the basement in Cicero, Illinois. And he bought grapes with the Italian guys across the alley off of a train, from California. And they'd all take a bunch and make wine, and then they'd stand in the alley and, like, compare notes, and they'd be like, "Your wine sucks, mine's great." And frankly, I think they probably all sucked, but my uncle...
They probably did the job, though.
My uncle bought a vineyard because, he loved wine, and he had lived in Europe for a long time, and wine had always been a big part of our family meal growing up, and, so he didn't want it to skip a generation, so he bought a vineyard, he started making some wine, and, he became ill in the early 90s and asked me if I was interested in running his winery. So I was in the software business before, and I said, "I'm out." I quit my job like 5 seconds later. And
Really?
Came back and ran Oakville Ranch, which was his label.
Okay.
And then he passed away, unfortunately, and so I started my own label and I just fell into it, really. But
yeah.
It was something I'd always grown up with and loved, and I started collecting wines when I was probably 20 years old.
Now, I might take a stab at what that software company was.
Could have been...
It could have been... There's a wine named after it on the table here.
Could have been Oracle.
Could have been Oracle.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay, we'll get there.
My Uncle Bob was one of the founders of Oracle. So.
Oh, very cool.
Do we have a question from one of our illustrious guests?
Sure. Hey, Dave.
Yes?
Why so many different varietals that you produce? I mean, you're known for Oracle, and obviously you and Gary got started doing a lot of really good Chardonnay, but you have such a breadth of the line. Why?
Well, I mean, a lot of reasons. We love wine. We love all kinds of wine. And in a lot of ways, we just stumbled into a lot of things. Gary worked at Phelps before he worked with us for many years, and he used to buy Viognier from John Simpson down in Madeira. So when Gary came to work with me, John showed up one day with a bunch of Viognier, and we stumbled into Viognier. And I've always loved Viognier, but I never thought, gee, this is a grape I should make in Napa Valley. So John Simpson's vineyard is in Madera, California, which is a very odd spot. But he gave us the opportunity to use this wine and see if we liked it, and it just blossomed into one of my favorite wines that we make, actually.
And it is really good. I just want to segue into one other question that led to, how do you and Gary and your team get access to some of the fruit you get from some of these amazing vineyards?
All of them have their own unique stories. We bumped into people or sought to make different varietals. I mean, when I decided I wanted to make Pinot, my friend Duffy, who was working for me, had grown up with Gary Pizzoni. So he goes, "Hey, let's go talk to this guy, Gary." This was like in 96, 97. "Let's go talk to this crazy guy, Gary, I know. He's growing Pinot in the Santa Lucia Highlands." So we went down there, and, the guy was completely whack, but really fun. And we're like, yeah, we need Pinot from here. So in a lot of ways, we've stumbled into a lot of things, but Pinot was something I always really loved and wanted to make. But you can't really make it in Oakville.
No,
so,
but we actually have a really nice Pinot in front of us.
We have a really nice Pinot right here, the 2011 Gary's Pinot, Gary's Vineyard, which is owned by Gary Pizzoni and Gary Francioni, two good friends of ours, and some great Pinot Noir growers. To me, some of the best Pinot Noir growers in California. And it's a great climate, great soil for these kinds of wines. We actually make probably 27 different wines,
20,
which is a lot. We make Sauvignon Blanc, we make Viognier, we make 4 or 5 different Chardonnays. We have some Marsanne. We have Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier blend called the Iliad.
Oh, okay.
And then for red wines, we make 3 or 4 different Pinots from Santa Lucia Highlands, Sangiovese. We make a rosé of Sangiovese from Mendocino.
Which you can buy in magnums and gets me through the summer.
The magnums of
A lot of people through the
rosé
summer.
are the perfect picnic wine if you want to get lucky.
Oh.
What's your production, Dave? What's your total production?
Roughly about 30,000 cases a year. It varies year to year depending on crop levels and things like that. But, it's 27 or 28 different wines, and we make about 30,000 cases. So we don't make a lot of any one wine. We're not making 30,000 cases of Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. We're making 4,000 cases of Chardonnay, 3,000 of Viognier, couple thousand of Oracle, 1,200 cab, two different cabs.
So you're definitely keeping Gary on his toes, though. He doesn't get bored drinking the same or tasting the same varietal day after day after day.
Absolutely not, and that's kind of the point. We're a little bit ADD, all of us, and we like great food and we like great wine, and when we get the opportunity to make a varietal or a wine from a vineyard that's special, from a grower who's great and who gets what it is we're trying to do, we jump on the opportunity. We're making Tempranillo, we make Petit Syrah, we make Merlot, a couple cabs, the Bordeaux blend, the Oracle.
Yeah. And that's one thing as the sommelier and also somebody that works for Dave, that's something that's inspiring for all of us to be a part of. Is you're never bored. You're never talking about a single varietal. You're never talking about a single vineyard. It's vineyards that are from the right places. It's risk and reward.
Right.
We know that our boss is willing to take a risk to get a reward. When you talk about the Wild East B&E, there's not a whole lot of people that would have the you-know-whats to try it. And Gary Brookman and Dave Miner have set the precedent. And it's one of my favorite wines because there is so much to it in the way that it hits you. You have a little bit of brioche toast, but you maintain the green apple acidity, but then there's a lemon zest, so things are three-dimensional. And most people don't have the you-know-whats to try, and you can't achieve that without taking a risk. And when we get into our Pinots, we're talking about very much a wild card when you're sourcing the fruit from the people that are growing the Pinot Noir that we source from.
Mm-hmm.
They're wild cards too. And so when you match up, it's a lot of powers that be.
Right.
And there's lots of levels that you can achieve because of the fact that everyone was willing to do the risk and find what the reward was. And the reward is coming, and it's already began, but the reward will be more.
Huh. So this Pinot that we're drinking, Gary's Vineyard,
Yep.
you had to have gone down there and spent time with Gary.
Absolutely.
And he's a crazy person from what I hear.
Absolutely.
Tell me something crazy that you've encountered with Gary. If we're going to be drinking his wine, I need to, I see Gary Berger. It's like,
Anyone got a Rasta hat?
Rasta hat, really? I mean, this is California, though. Come on.
Well, we started out making Pizzoni Vineyard, actually, in 97. And so 97, 98, and 99, we got grapes from Pizzoni Vineyard. And then in 99, we also got Gary's for the first time. And then in 02, we started getting Rosella's Vineyard. And we got a couple different clones from Rosella's Vineyard. And then in like 2010, maybe, I think we got Sierra Mar Vineyard.
Okay.
So we now have like 4 distinct Pinots that we get from down there. And probably the first time I went down there, we got to Gary Pizzoni's grandmother's house at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So we left Napa at probably 6 o'clock in the morning to get down there.
Must have been a nice drive, though.
It was a great drive and not a lot of traffic. And as soon as we get there, we go down into like the root cellar under his grandmother's house in, the Salinas Valley in Gonzales, right in the middle of like a lettuce field. And we go down and he's got this wine cellar and like it's a dirt floor, uneven, it's like very rustic. And he starts pulling corks on like, all kinds of Burgundies and, burning herbs and things like that, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we're like, shh, we're doing whatever. And he's like, oh, okay, let's go. So we hop in his truck, and he drives like on dirt roads at about 80 miles an hour up into the hills so we can go look at the vineyards. And then we get out of the truck, and we get into a Jeep, and I'm sitting in the back of the Jeep holding on, and like, this guy is like, we're all stoned out of our minds pretty much.
And have been drinking Burgundy.
Yeah.
With wine.
With wine.
And it's not even 10 o'clock, and I'm like, holy moly. And I'm bouncing in the back of the Jeep and like flying all over the place. And then we get to this block of vineyard, and, you know, we go to look at the vineyard. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you, you know, so many tons out of this block, yada, yada, yada. And it's all, he's got electric fence around the whole thing. So he's clearly not thinking, because it's early, and he's pleasantly, modified.
Okay.
And
use that
he
word.
grabs the fence to open it up to let us like climb through, and it's still juiced. So it goes, you can see him jump. He gets all pissed, and like cuss words come out of his mouth, and we're giggling. I mean, I'm trying not to laugh out loud, but I'm like giggling.
As if his hair wasn't curly enough.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I might have straightened it a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
So, we walk around, and he's telling us stories about how he's going to, dig this cave by himself and build a winery in it. I'm like, Gary, the federal government's not going to let you have a bonded winery in a cave that you just dug yourself. It's just not how it works.
And what was his response to that?
He's like, oh, yeah, I'll get it done.
Very cool. Very cool.
So this is who we're getting.
This is who we're getting into, and you know what? I think when you taste this wine, you might be able to taste a little bit.
The guy is passionate, and those are the kinds of people that we like doing business with, because you got to be a little bit crazy to do this for a living. I think it's not the kind of thing that you're going to make a bazillion dollars doing if you're doing it right. I mean, you can make soda pop wine and make a lot of money, and that's a different segment of the business, which is fine. People do that, and that's great, but that's not really what we do. We make wines that we would be proud to drink at home and show to our friends and family, and pull a cork on as soon as we get it bottled, take it home and go, I'm so excited to drink this, I can't stand it.
It's one of those wines where you can't just throw it on your cellar wall and go, okay, I'm going to leave that there for a little while.
So, Sean, we have questions online.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Well, hey, let's do this real quick. Let's do a quick little wrap up, because we're ending our first half an hour segment. And we really want to hear these questions, and we really want to thank everybody. We've got everybody online, and we're going to get more fun, because we've got more wine to drink. We've got more questions that are coming in online. We've got great people logged in, and we're going to have some fun. I mean, we're already getting warmed up right now, and the fact that this is
just getting rolling, baby.
We're already a half an hour in. I'm scared and excited about what the next half an hour is going to be. So real quick, thank you guys for watching, and always make sure to check us out at ToutSuite.com. You can check all of our Meet Your Makers. Thank you to 55 Degrees Wine Storage up in St. Helena, and making sure that we can get everybody watching to get online. We want to just not have you watch. Like JoJo, for instance. We need JoJo back. If you can hear me, JoJo, we want you back.
Where's JoJo?
Hi.
Thank you she's back. So thank you guys so much, and we're going to see you in the next half an hour. All right? Be right back.
We are going to respond to some questions from Brian.
Cool.
Brian Royce.
Now, welcome back. Here's the second half. We've got Brian. What do we got, Brian?
Brian is from Minnesota.
Okay.
He says, hello, James.
Hi.
So repeat my question. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me. And speak very loudly.
No, I've got you. We got Brian from Minnesota. And what's he going to ask us, Susan?
Always wanted to know what's the story behind the minor label.
We already did the label one. Come on.
That was David.
We did that.
So Brian's is, I hope you are well. 10 inches of snow here today in Minneapolis.
Holy jeez.
And what happened to Enigma?
Enigma? What is Enigma?
Enigma. Well,
oh boy. Oh, we hear giggling. I like giggling.
It's DDA, right?
Enigma is a wine that it's actually had a couple different lives, but the first Oracle that we did was called Enigma, and we did it as a wine club wine. So it was a Bordeaux blend. It had this stupid picture of me on it with like a black box across my eyes. It's almost totally embarrassing, but so that was the first version of the Enigma. And then Gary Brookman, our illustrious winemaker and my very dear friend, decided to buy some Portuguese varietals from John Simpson down in Madeira, where we get our Viognier.
Mm-hmm.
So we did this Tinta-Cacao, Sazao, Touriga Nacional blend.
Holy gee.
And we couldn't figure out what the hell it was, so we called it the Enigma. Still, somebody had already trademarked that name and we didn't realize it. And so we got a cease and desist letter from someone that we know saying, you know, this is my trademark. You guys have to stop making this wine. And the wine was really freaking good. But how do you explain to people what Tinta-Cacao, Touriga Nacional, and you know, whatever it is?
You just can't.
How do you explain that?
Sazao.
Yeah. So we just decided to scrap the whole project. And those wines, though, were stunningly beautiful. It's just, you know, Portuguese varietals, probably not a big market mover.
Do they still exist? Are there still vintages of this wine floating there in the ether?
You know, I don't think there are.
Really?
I think we sold them all.
Drank them.
I'm sure somebody out there watching this show has one.
Unless I have some hiding on the rack somewhere. I don't have any in my cellar. Do you, Gary?
No, drank them.
Oh, boy.
They were great barbecue wine.
They were stunning wines. I mean, they were dense and, you know, like floral and spicy and beautiful.
Nice. Well, you were saying that it started off as the Bordeaux blend, and then became, now Oracle is your Bordeaux blend.
Right.
Let's talk about this wine?
Yes.
Let's explain this wine. We have one more question real quick. Okay, we are still live streaming, and we're going to be live streaming this entire time. But I want to talk about this wine real quick, because then we're going to really go crazy. And I just want to make sure he gets into those wines. But let's talk about your question. What do you got, Sid?
Brian, right.
Brian?
You pick one wine to give to your favorite guitarist. What wine would that be?
Oh, who's your favorite guitarist?
Then would you pick that person to introduce?
Wow, that is like a complex question.
Well done, Brian.
Repeat the question.
Does the guitar player have to be alive?
Django.
I don't think it has to be.
I don't think he has to be
Django would be
alone.
good.
So you have to pick a guitar player.
Yeah.
You have to pick a wine
Right.
that you would share with that guitar player.
Right.
And then you have to decide whether or not you would play guitar with that guy, or you just drink the wine while he played guitar.
Know that you not have to be alive.
And no,
Okay,
they don't
good.
have to be alive.
Wow. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's
That's
good. That could take up the rest of the half an hour.
You know, Django would be amazingly good, but I would have to pick Joe Pass. Just because he was my guitar hero growing up, and I got to see him play a lot of times when I was in college in San Diego, and the wine I would drink with him, and I cannot not drink and play at the same time. So we'll play some, we'll drink some, we'll play some, we'll drink some, but gosh, does it have to be my wine?
Oh,
It could be a Chateauneuf. It could be a Chateauneuf.
What do you want? What do you got? What wine would you pick? Doesn't have to be minor.
No rules.
No rules here. Pick a wine.
I'd go Romani Conti
Oh boy.
with Joe Pass. Maybe sitting on the beach in San Diego or something. I don't know, something like that.
Boy. Go big or go home on that one.
That's it. You got to go big.
Love it. Absolutely love it. But let's get back into this Oracle.
The Oracle is our Bordeaux blend, so it's all 5 Bordeaux varietals.
Okay. Every single one.
All 5. Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Malbec, and Petit Verdot.
Do you ever think about throwing the 6th one in there?
Which would be what?
The ghost one? The Carmenere?
Carmenere. Yeah. No, I haven't thought about it. Gary, have you ever thought about that?
Thought about not doing it.
It's a different temperature. It does well up north.
But this is a wine that comes from Stagecoach Vineyard, where, when Jan Krupp from Stagecoach Vineyard started planting up there, it's right up above Oakville Ranch, which is where my uncle's vineyard was.
Right.
And we actually looked at buying that piece of property before Jan did and tried to get easements from our neighbors to get there. And we had one stubborn neighbor who wouldn't let us get through his property. So Jan Krupp bought it and started planting it. And as soon as he did, I started talking to him, and he was interested in, how we farmed the red rocky dirt, that we had, because he had the same soil. And I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm going to spec plant a lot of this, but then I'm going to start making some wine. And I'm like, well, what do you got? Because I'm in. So, we got one of the first Merlot blocks that he ever planted, and I got to choose some of these blocks before he even cleared and planted them.
Oh, wow.
And then over the years, we've just, picked up additional blocks. We've added more varietals. I sort of convinced him to plant Chardonnay up there. He didn't want to plant white wine up there because, from a financial standpoint, Cabernet makes more money than Chardonnay. But
of course,
he planted some for me, like 5 acres or something. And once we got it fermented and in the barrel, and he came by and tasted it, then he wanted to buy some back from me. I'm like, no.
Funny how that works.
I wanted 10 acres. You give me 5. Plant more, and we'll split it or something. But that dirt is really good for Chardonnay because it's very high in iron. It's a high elevation, and you get cool evenings, you get warm days, you get it keeps good acidity in the wine. So, but this wine in particular was something that we set out to make. Initially, I always wanted to do a blend. It was something one of my first red wine loves was Bordeaux. I had a 61 Figeac, and it was like a light switch went on in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to do a blend from up there. So we started out with 2001. We did the Enigma, I think, in 2000 or 99.
Okay.
But we didn't have very much of it, so it just went out as a wine club deal. And then in 2001, we did our first blend of Oracle, which was 1/3 Cab, 1/3 Cab Franc, 1/3 Merlot.
Okay.
To this day, when I taste through all these old vintages, that's still my favorite wine.
Really?
But the press hated it.
Don't. I was gonna say, don't tell Gary that. When it's just easy math like that, a third, and he's putting all this time into making sure that we've got the.
We didn't have Malbec or Petit Verdot at the time, so we did the first few years were just Cab Franc, and Merlot.
Okay.
But the press didn't like it. It caused a big stink with me and some writer. And
really?
Other people gave it like big scores, 95 points, whatever. This guy gave it like 75. So.
Holy jeez.
But to me today, it's still one of the best wines we've made in the Bordeaux realm. And so we upped the Cab percentage to sort of. But the wines, to me are still brilliant and well aging and delightful. And we have a question.
Yes. What do we got? John and Stacy, you're on. What do we got?
All right, Dave. So
Dynamic duo.
We went to the winery, had a great experience. We got some Oracle, but we also got, I think it might have been a year or two ago, some Benevento, right? Benedetto. So I forgot what the story was, but I remember it. So can you please tell me again?
Yeah, the Benedetto is a Cabernet that we produce that's over the years, I'm a guitar player, I'm a guitar collector, and I've gotten to know probably the greatest living jazz guitar builder in the world named Bob Benedetto. And I ordered a guitar from him, and we, make a long story short, we decided we're going to try and stain this guitar with wine.
Ooh.
And so Bob stained the first guitar he built for me with wine, and I produced this Cabernet for him in order to pay him for this guitar, which was probably, a $50,000 guitar. It's a hand-carved archtop guitar that he built by hand in his little, shop in his house in Florida. And then a couple of years later, Bob decided to sort of build a bigger factory and sort of make his brand larger than just him in his little basement making guitars. And he had a relationship with Fender for a while, but he backed out of that. So I invested in his company at that point, and then we started doing this every year. So we skipped a year. The 2002 was the first vintage we made, and then we skipped 2003, and then we started again in 2004, and we've made a vintage ever since. So he builds me a wine-stained guitar. I tell him the size and shape that I want, and he builds it for me. I just picked up my new one like 3 weeks ago, number 7.
You do it every year?
We do it every year.
That's awesome.
And
then
you
we do
stain it with a different wine each year? Do you
Well,
have
he's traditionally used Cabernet for the stain every year, or the Oracle, or the Benedetto. But this new one he just stained for me is done with Syrah.
Oh.
So the colors on every one of them, because each piece of wood is different, take on a different hue, and the
Syrah is more of an opaque purple.
It's pretty dark, yeah. So, but we do a concert every year in August to release the new Benedetto wine, and they usually present me with my new guitar about that time, and we bring in guys who play Benedetto guitars. Bucky Pizzarelli, who's 80, I think he's going to be 88 this year in January next year. Howard Alden, who's one of the great jazz guitar players of our era, and then we bring in a bunch of other musicians and have a big concert and drink some wine and eat good food and have a party, and so we do about 200 cases of that wine a year, and it comes out in August, and it's usually gone by the end of the year, and it's. We take our favorite lots of Cabernet, we blend in a little Franc, we blend in a little bit of something else, sometimes Merlot or Cab Franc, or sometimes Petit Verdot or something like that, but it's predominantly Cab, and it's from our favorite barrels and from our favorite lots. And it's a very small production, but very, very wonderful wine.
Dave, how involved are you in the blending process of the wines?
Very involved. Yeah. Gary and I and our other winemaker that we have is Stacy Vogel, who's a delightful, wonderful, very talented young woman. So the three of us and our enologist, whose name is Mara, and usually my sales director, we sit down and do blends together, especially on Oracle, Cab, Merlot. We do a Rhone blend called the Odyssey, a red blend. So we sit together and do these blendings together. We all taste the wines individually, take our own notes, rank the wines, and then compare notes and come up with our final blends. We have Gary involved. Gary,
what do you got?
Which Gary, me?
Yes, you.
Sometimes the Oracle takes us like a month to a month and a half of tastings to finalize. It's a process.
In that month, what is your strategy? What do you look at when you build it? Do you build a backbone and then fill it in, or do you kind of have an overall backbone?
We fill the backbone, which usually has a predominance of Cabernet Sauvignon. We'll blend in some Franc and some Merlot with that. Kind of get that percentage dialed in, and then we try Petit Verdot and Malbec and start small, maybe go up to just slightly larger than small, which might get up to like 6 or 7. If we don't like that, we back it down, and we usually end up about 4 or 5% on those two varietals. But it's a process that takes some years it takes us probably 15, 20 different sessions.
Wow.
Nothing that is decided on quickly.
Gary, do you guys all do you ever like A/B it with other vintages?
We'll try. You're only allowed to do 5% of any other vintage, of course, and still keep it that vintage. And yes, we look at that as well, and we have done that in the past. Put 5% of the newer vintage, perhaps to add a little freshness, a little liveliness to the wine.
Okay. I mean, I was talking about comparing like between vintages as opposed when you're blending.
You're talking about blending. Well, sure. We always line them up and try all the different vintages. Yeah.
Oh, that must be a tough day at work. The day that you have to sit down and go, all right, we're going to line up every vintage of Oracle and say, this is where we need to be. I mean, do you plan ahead to make sure that
we have a driver?
Well, 35 years from now, you still have enough of the original Oracle so that you can continually taste it comparatively with everything else.
We do have.
It's a good idea.
Small quantities of every vintage we've done. So
gotcha.
With Oracle, we've always held back, like a higher percentage, and then sort of re-release it from the library to our wine club members and things like that. And so we've always kind of eased that one out, and we also let that sit a year. Since the first vintage, we let it sit a year in the bottle before we release it.
Oh, wow.
So we try to give it a little bottle age. It gets a little more oak age.
Very cool. Didier, we got another question.
Yes, we have a question from Amy Wertz Morrow, and she loves La Diligence.
La
Sure,
Diligence.
yes.
Yeah.
And she'd like to know how this wine came up under the minor label. Is it part of the minor label, or talk a bit about this wine?
Okay, so we have another label that we started 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago or so, called La Diligence. And it was a label that was inspired by our involvement in the Hospice du Rhône, which is a Rhône festival that took place down in Paso Robles for many years. And we sort of became friends with Francois Villard, Yves Couleron, Yves Gangloff, Pierre Gaillard, a number of wine producers from the Northern Rhône who came to this festival every year. And usually what ends up happening at the Hospice du Rhône is you go to seminars, you do some tastings, and then everybody ends up at Villa Creek in Paso Robles drinking tequila.
In California, it always seems to come back to tequila.
Yeah. I watched, Steve Reynolds last night, drinking tequila with you guys.
We were having fun. We still have some left. If we want to switch to tequila, we can make that happen.
We may need to go there eventually, but.
Sit with Oracle for a minute.
I love Gary is like,
Gary, can you come pick me up? So
security.
we developed this. We came up with this idea to try to make wines in California. We'd already been making Syrah and Viognier and Rhone varietals, but with Francois, we decided to try to make a wine that was California grapes in a French style that we could taste with all of Francois and Yves and Yves' friends in Northern Rhone, blind taste them on it and have them not believe it was American wine.
Oh, wow.
So the idea was to make American grapes taste like French wine. And so
how do you deal with that, Gary? When somebody comes to you and says, I've got American fruit, but I want it to taste like northern France. I want to do Saint Joseph.
I went up and looked at the vineyard, and he kind of gave me his 2 cents about what he thought, he thought we should ferment. And I was open to any suggestions. I'm not all that weirded out that I don't want to listen to what other people have to say. And we kind of followed a recipe somewhat the first couple of years that was fairly based on what he came up with. We modify it ourselves now because we kind of have been set free or set on the path to making this type of wine. We're now feel very confident that we can do it ourselves. But I had no issue. I had no issue with what he had to offer. In fact, it was very sound, good advice.
Are you utilizing certain old world techniques?
Yeah, more whole cluster where we aren't separating the grapes off of the stems and using the stems and the whole berries to ferment the wine. And again, we don't advertise it on the wine or in any other way, but it is also a native wild yeast fermentation.
Oh, very cool.
As all
the
our
Pinot as well are that way.
All of our Pinots are that way too.
Very nice.
More questions, guys.
Oh, more questions. We like
Brian
more
Royce
questions.
again. 2 questions. It's going to be good for the 3 of you guys. The most underrated wine and minor. Is that the same for the 3 of you?
The most what?
You start.
Underrated.
All right.
Underrated.
Underrated. Gotcha.
So most underrated would be, without a doubt, the Merlot. Merlot is taken a beating over the years. There's a couple movies out there. But without a doubt, it's one of our best grapes, and it's one of our least planted grapes, and the one that has the best stress and struggle. So it is the mother of the family. It is the one that can combine with all the other varieties in the Bordeaux family, and it has the backbone to stand up to anything. And Merlot for me is it's gentle, but it's strong, and it has a lot of earth, and it has a lot of fruit. And
just like me.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a woman. Are you a woman?
No, it's gentle and strong, and what do you mean,
But he's in touch with his feminine side.
Oh,
no. Well,
Precisely.
For me,
oh, you are Casanova.
For me, the most underrated grape varietal we have is Merlot because, I sell our wines every single day, and I'm with the people, and I'll tell you right now, if you don't respect our Merlot, you're missing out because it's one of the best grapes that we grow. And it's one of the best wines we produce.
And do you think that if you pour the wine for them and don't tell them it's Merlot, they actually take that chance to appreciate it versus I'm going to pour you a Merlot and they're going,
Yeah.
No.
I won't do it. I won't do
So
it.
what about you, Dave? The most underrated wine?
Well, I mean, for me, I think the Oracle, which for us gets a lot of credit and a lot of notoriety, but compared to a lot of Napa Valley Cabernets or blends, it doesn't quite get the press that some of those wines get. But so for me, that wine I think is, very undervalued and underrated and really reasonably priced compared to some of these, ridiculous $800 bottles of wine that people make that are, not wines that, most people could even buy.
Gary, what about you? What
Hey,
do you
Gary,
think?
let's bring you in on this one.
Okay, well,
Really, really good choices. I really like James's idea, suggestion. I'm going to go with the Odyssey. Matt, please hold that bottle up.
Yeah.
It's getting back to our Rhone, our fondness for Rhone wines, and it's Grenache based. There's a little more Grenache than Syrah. There's also some Mourvèdre, and we're now making one that has a little Cinsault in it as well.
Oh boy.
And I think these wines are not known, and once people can taste them, spend a little time digesting them and maybe getting a little bit of tutoring on them, I think they will absolutely blow people out the door. They go with any kind of food. They're friendly. They're age-worthy. I think they're pretty awesome wines.
All right, and the last the part B of this question, and that will be the last tweet question we take in.
Cool.
You can keep going. Have the tweet coming up. You'll be answering those tweets, personally.
Yeah.
Later on, but what a wine should a member be on the lookout coming out of minor?
What should members look out for?
Like what kind of wine? Is there one special wine? 2012, 2013 great vintage. What is it? Is there wine that is coming out? Is going to be fantastic. Maybe Gary should start with that because he has a hands on that.
Gary,
Okay,
start with that.
I'm going to throw out another Rhone thing that we're doing, and that is that Dave touched on, the white blend called the Iliad. Marsanne, Roussanne, and 5% Viognier in that. I think that wine, if people get acquainted with it and get introduced to it, is going to really do the job. And
Hey, Gary, is that like a Chateauneuf-du-Pape white?
No, not exactly. They don't typically. I don't think they put Viognier in their whites, do they, Dave? Down there?
Not very
I was
much.
going to say, they're more Grenache Blanc based, aren't they?
Grenache Blanc, which
Grenache Blanc more northern Rhone whites. Matt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like Saint Joseph Blanc or something like that.
What about you, though? Something that wine club members or people who are familiar with minor and who have seen these underrated wines and starting to try things out, a reason that they really need to get in there and say, no.
I would agree with Gary, on the Rhone blends, both of the Rhone blends that we do, the white, the Iliad, and the red, the Odyssey, which kind of keeps with the Oracle kind of Greek mythology thing that we have going. But all of the Rhone varietals to me are wines that I love drinking that don't get a lot of respect in the marketplace. Syrah in particular, is one of the hardest wines to sell, but to me, it's one of the most beautiful wines. And as far as aging wine goes, I don't think there's a wine that we make that ages better than Syrah.
Really?
We've been making Syrah since maybe 1999, 98, 99.
I love Syrah.
And once those wines get 10 or 12 or 15 years of age on them,
Right.
they are stunning. They're like the perfect balance of fruit and earth and acidity and richness, and it's like,
for a second here, I think I'm wondering why you're in Napa and why you're not down in Paso.
but these wine, none of these wines come from Paso.
Okay,
And,
but I mean in an area that's, are you growing all of these Rhone varietals here in Napa?
well, not all of
We
them,
did the
but
Syrah
the
in
Syrah
San
comes from Stagecoach Vineyard.
Love it. This is exciting.
And it's great mountain fruit. It's big structure, lots of rocky soil. If you go to the Northern Rhone, they're very hilly, rocky, vineyards. And so
Steep
to
and
me,
west.
where we do Syrah here is more Northern Rhone-like than
there we
than
go.
Paso.
So we're really talking about that top part of Rome. We're not talking about Chateauneuf
We're
and
talking
things like that.
We're talking Hermitage, and we're talking
Oh,
about
here we
aspects
go.
to the
Yeah.
sun and steepness.
Now we're getting dirty.
So
Yeah.
what happens?
And I like it dirty,
Yeah.
Oh, do you now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's for the after show. We hope we keep everybody on for that one.
Hey, Dave, I got 2 quick questions for you, Dave.
Yeah, we've got just a few seconds, so let's
Cool.
knock them out.
Cool. One, where are you playing live with your guitar? Are you playing anywhere live? And 2, what can you tell me about this? Can you see this?
Hold it higher.
Higher and center it.
All the
I'll help him.
What is it?
That's a cat.
99.
99. Holy
what can
cow.
I expect? What can I expect?
Is that 99 Oakville Cab?
Yep.
Well,
Cedar and cigar.
Yeah.
All day long.
spice,
Very, very earthy.
very dark fruit, lots of earth. That's like the perfect bone-in ribeye wine right there.
Do we
Oh,
need a
nice.
top house right now?
We might need to get some tri-tip off the grill.
Oh, that's right. Didier. I can smell
Didier.
it just wafting into the room right now.
I want that wine right now because I can
Okay,
smell beef on
Give
the
us
grill.
some
right now.
tri-tip. We'll give you some wine.
Well, thank you. We'll work on that one. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this and for all the great questions. And Gary and Matt and John and Stacy, thank you all for being a part of this today.
Thank
and
you.
JoJo, if JoJo's still there, thank you for taking part in this. And thank you, James. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Really, it's been a
Hey,
pleasure.
Matt, come visit us.
You gotta-
Thank you.
thank
I
you
will
so much.
bacon.
Little toast on this
Bacon.
one. Let's get everybody in this one. Can we get glasses up?
There you go.
We all
Glasses
need
up.
bacon
Bacon.
Bacon.
and penties.
Did you say panties?
Yes.
And on that note,
I may have.
everybody, we
I'm
look forward to
sorry.
seeing you on our next show. We look forward to seeing you. Check us out at ToutSuite.com. Check out our Facebook page. We'd love to have you follow us on Twitter. And, thank you again always to 55
Minor.
Degrees up in St. Helena. Rocking the minor
Nice
shirts.
shirt.
You got to do it.
Live wild.
I can't take her anywhere. I really can't.
Thanks, everybody.